Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Welcome to the Infowars Nightly News. I'm your host, Jakari Jackson. It's October 29th, 2014. Let's get straight into our news tonight. The CDC has finally got around to admitting what we've all suspected from the beginning, that Ebola can in fact be transmitted through the air.
Kit, describe for radio listeners what we're looking at here.
Well, the document on the left is from the CDC on October 16th. It's about the transmission of Ebola. It says nothing about droplet spread of Ebola. But now the CDC released another flyer on the right on Monday, the 27th, which does admit that, yes, Ebola can spread through droplets in the air.
Now, we were attacked by, no exaggeration, hundreds of publications 2.5 months ago for saying this. We were just linking to the CDC's internal documents that were public but not really widely circulated, saying this too. So why do you think they're now, Kit, coming out and quietly admitting this?
Because now even the mainstream media is forced to admit that, yes, Ebola can spread through droplets in the air. So now they're just slowly admitting, trying not to bring too much attention to themselves by quietly releasing this document, this new revelation.
Well, this is what concerns me, is that it doesn't die right away in cold weather and spreads according to the Army. I know you have links to that in your article. Thank you, Kit Daniels.
And I guess it was hard for them to get the official story straight, because when myself and Joe Biggs went to a hearing at the Texas State Capitol a few weeks ago, the Texas Health Commissioner, he jumps up there and he says, yeah, if you're sitting next to somebody on a bus or an emergency room and they cough or they sneeze on you, yeah, you can catch Ebola that way. We're like, well, that's airborne. And now the CDC is finally getting around to admitting that. So I guess right now they've finally got somewhat of a coherent story. Let's move on to some other news. The Raza promotes Washington Post guide on where people can vote without ID. Explain the Washington Post, Aaron Blake. Most states request some form of ID, but do not require it. Another 20 states don't require identification, and they do have a graphic if you want to see those states. The Chicago chapter of Asian Americans Advancing Justice tweeted Blake's article with the message, reminder, Illinois does not require voter ID to cast a ballot, along with the pro-Democrat hashtag turnout for what? The tweet was helpfully retweeted by the National Council of La Raza, of course, being one of the country's foremost pro-amnesty Hispanic immigrant organizations. But even Obama is acknowledging how easy or how ripe the system is for voter fraud when he came out and said, you can only vote once.
So, 1 week, Wisconsin. 1 week. 1 week from today, you get to choose a new governor. And because early voting runs through this Friday, you don't have to wait till Election Day. You can vote all week. I mean, you can only vote once. This isn't Chicago now.
And we see how easy the system is to game, because there's Project Veritas, who went out and got the voting ballot for Attorney General Eric Holder. And all they need to do is say, hey, I'm Eric Holder, I live at such and such address. Oh, here you go, Mr. Eric Holder. And this is a man who's a public figure, a political figure, well known within the United States, and it's that easy. So how hard would it be to say, hey, I'm Bob Brown from down the street, and oh, here you go, Mr. Brown. It's just another example of how silly the system is. And another silly example, the retaliation being brought against Cliven Bundy, the Nevada rancher who we documented earlier this year. Retaliation. Feds launched new land grab targeting Bundy family. A federal land grab being imposed under the guise of environmental protection in southern Nevada has been labeled an act of deliberate retaliation by Cliven Bundy, the rancher who was at the center of the standoff between BLM agents and armed militia groups earlier this year. On Sunday, the Bundy family posted a Facebook entry which asserted that the federal government is mounting retaliations against the Bundy family and the Southern Nevada people, after it was announced that the feds intended to designate about 1.8 million acres of land around the Gold Butte Range as critical to the environment. So these are the environmentalists, quote, who are running around killing the cattle from the Bundy Range, because you guys remember the BLM had the cattle within their fenced-in area, and they are running around shooting Cliven Bundy's cattle. And one of the big reasons they said they were doing this, because they said that the cattle were detrimental to the tortoise population, which wasn't the case. Because we found out the tortoises were actually benefiting from the cow dung and so much. But these environmentalists, you know, under the guise of, you know, being environmental, running around shooting the cattle in the head, didn't even resell the cattle or do something else with them. They went out there, shot them dead, and then they claimed they had the moral high ground. And of course, Harry Reid comes out and says, if you're somebody who enjoys your Second Amendment rights, you are a domestic terrorist because you can't come someplace where the feds are and be carrying a firearm. And of course, you know, you have bad apples everywhere, bad apples in Ferguson. As with any situation, they chose to focus on the worst of the worst, the provocateurs, people who are trying to kick up stuff, completely ignoring the peaceful people who just happen to be there with their firearms. But, you know, Harry Reid does what he wants, and hopefully we'll get the Bundy family on later this week, maybe sometime next week, to talk more about their experience. And our last story for the night before we go on to some more special reports, students suspended over pellet gun Facebook photo. So this is a student, he's posing with his girlfriend with their pellet guns. Now, keep in mind, this is a photo taken at their house. So the only thing the kids did wrong, according to the school, was they put homecoming 2014. And the school said, well, that's a threat against the school, even though the pictures were taken at the home of the student. So just reminds everybody out there that you can't eat your Pop-Tarts the wrong way. You can't play with a airsoft gun in your own front yard. You can't bring a bubble gun to school. If you bring an umbrella to school, they may just lock it down or cancel school for the day. And now they will suspend you if you take a picture in your own home holding an airsoft gun, because that's freedom in the United States of America.
The globalist social engineers are not just targeting us with propaganda. They are manipulating our genetics. We are being targeted at every level by estrogen mimickers that lower our testosterone and other hormones and natural compounds that the body needs. After consulting top doctors, nutritionists, pharmacists, and others, we have developed what I believe is the ultimate non-GMO organic super male vitality formula sourced from powerful organic herbs and then concentrated for maximum potency. Super Male Vitality was developed to activate your body's own natural processes instead of using synthetic chemicals. Super Male Vitality by Infowars Life is so powerful that I only take half the recommended dose. For a limited time, we are offering 15% off Super Male Vitality at InfoWarsLife.com to introduce you to this powerful supplement. Visit InfoWarsLife.com today to secure your Super Male Vitality. InfoWarsLife.com.